Last week, obviously that was kind of exactly the way I had hoped the game would go. Going into it, offensively and defensively, I wanted to be pretty base. I didn't want to do a lot of exotic things. Just wanted to run the football well offensively, be very efficient in the passing game, and then defensively, wanted to stop the run. And don't give up the big play. And I think for the most part, other than the one pass play that hit over the top, we did those things. So overall, very pleased with how we played last week.
Coach, just taking a quick look at NIU. If you were just going to give me some feedback on what the Wolfpack was like, what do you see on tape, and how are you guys going to be able to exploit offense and defensively?
They're big, fast, and strong. Is what they look like on tape. It's very different, and in no way am I taking anything away from Kentucky Wesleyan, but the two films from last week to this week are totally different. Looking at these guys in preparation, defensively, they're very multiple. They do a lot of things up front. They bring blitzes in just about every different way imaginable from every different side. And then offensively, obviously, they're going to run the football. They're going to ground and pound you to death. And then when you load that box up, they're going to take their shot over the top. And they're very effective in doing that. They'll hit those guys over the top if you let them. But a very, very good football team, that's been very, very successful for a long period of time.
You were talking a little bit about the running game last week. We saw two guys get 15-plus carries. What did you see out of both of those guys, and can they help you this weekend?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing that I was pleased with, especially with Roman Clay, was I thought we did a good job of always falling forward. I never saw him get knocked back, and that's what we always talk about with any of our ball carriers, but especially our running backs. At the end of the day, every play is not going to be blocked up perfectly. So if there's ever any leakage, your job is to get us back to the line of scrimmage and fall forward, never get hit backwards. And I thought especially from Roman Clay, the entire game, they did a really good job of not losing any yardage. Always getting that hidden yardage and taking away those minuses. And I thought both of them, Nick Taylor and Roman Clay, did a really good job of that.
What's been the mindset this weekend, just in game week preparation for back-to-back FBS opponents?
Same. It's always the same. I mean, they put their pants on the same way we do, one leg at a time. They just got a little bit more pants, a little bit more scholarships. But it's the same. We'll put a plan together offensively to run and throw the ball. We'll put a plan together defensively to stop the run and the throw. And in special teams, we'll put a plan together to be as solid as we can. One thing about these guys is they do so much stuff on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. I think that's what you kind of have to do, is you got to find their base, and that's what's taken so long. I know, especially from an offensive standpoint, when we watched all of the games last year, there was so much stuff and so many blitzes. My head was about to explode just trying to find who they were on defense. So it was good to get our UNLV game from this year because I felt like they were a little bit more base and a little bit more, first game of the year. So that's kind of what we've been going off of the most, offensively and defensively, just trying to find who they are as a football team.
We talked to Katie a little bit about the return of Janowski Davis, obviously out last week for team rules and things like that. His return, another weapon for you guys. What's that going to be like for you guys?
Yeah, hopefully it'll balance us out. I thought, with that being said, I thought Jeremy Harness did a really good job of stepping in and taking up the slack. But hopefully with Janowski back, Jeremy doesn't have to do that. We can be a little bit more balanced up. NIU has a corner number 29. I don't know him by name. I don't know anybody by name. I just know him by number because that's all I look at. But they've got a corner number 29 who seems like he's the guy that they're going to put on your best receiver. Hopefully they'll have a little bit of push and pull on where to put him now that we've got two guys on either end of the field, where to flip-flop him and who to cover with him. Hopefully it'll allow KD just one more option to distribute the ball.
One of the emphasis, coming into the season was tackling. What did you take away from your defensive effort on last Thursday night?
Well, I thought we tackled the ball really well, especially on third downs. I think they were something like 7 of 18 on third downs, and a couple of those were some third and short yardage situations. that I thought that they tried to get the ball out in space last week, and we did a really good job in one-on-one tackling. So for the most part, I was really pleased with the way that we tackled.
What are some other key matchups, between NIU and Murray State that fans could watch for?
Well, I think anytime you play anytime you play an FBS opponent, I think the biggest matchup is always going to be your lines of scrimmage. If an FBS comes out, because obviously their mindset is going to be, hey, we've got to dominate the line of scrimmage, both sides of the line of scrimmage, and if they can do that, it's going to be a long night for the Racers. If they can't do that, then hopefully it'll be a long night for them, because I think, and I think anybody would agree, every coach at every level, if you go out and play 7-on-7, there's not going to be much difference. I said that years ago when we played Florida State. As weird as that sounds, if you let us play 7-on-7, then we'd probably put some points up on the board, and they'd have a hard time stopping us. But when you factor in those two lines of scrimmages, that's where the difference is made, because they have so much depth there, and they're able to keep those guys fresh. And if you can't break even up there up front, it's going to be a long night for you.
They have a good receiver, Joel. I think Bonio, 28, and then 19. Of course, that was the running back. Kenny Galladay, 213-yard game receiver. Talk about those guys a bit.
Yeah, well, that's their game plan. They're going to run it at you. They're going to take that big back and that big offensive line. They're going to come at you. They've got a lot of different run schemes. They do a lot of things. They run it with the quarterback a little bit. I don't know if they're running it with him as much as they used to when they had the really good quarterback Lynch a couple of years ago or whenever it was. But they're still going to run him a little bit, and that's what makes it so difficult in defending them, is they're playing with 11 people. When you play an offense like ours, we're playing with 10, because the quarterback, you just kind of neutralize him, whereas they play with 11 because they're going to run that guy every once in a while. And as soon as you get that mindset defensively and you start crowding that box and trying to contain him, they're going to take that receiver and they're going to go, and that's what makes him so effective. Is a lot of times it's all off of some type of play action, and it's a big hitter. It's a huge hitter. It's a game breaker type play, and that's what you can't allow. You've got to be able defensively. You've got to be able to contain the run without adding too many extra bodies into the box, so that you can still protect the pass.
Also, talk about their quarterback, Drew Hare, just 2 picks last year.
Yeah.
Didn't have an interception in game 1. Doesn't really seem to beat himself.
No, he doesn't, and I think that's a lot of their offensive scheme, like I'm talking about, is he knows that if they can get that run game established, and he can do the things that he needs to do within their check system and getting that run going, that the passes that he's going to be able, there's not going to be anybody around, because everybody's eyes are going to be in the backfield. So I think he does a good job of knowing that, and knowing that he doesn't have to do something. He doesn't have to press the ball into places it doesn't need to be thrown. He's just got to come off that play fake, find the open guy, and get it to him. But I think offensively, that's what makes it so tough to defend them, is all of the smoke and mirrors and all of the stuff that they do run game wise. When they drop back to pass, it's very hard to have enough people to defend that pass.
With a weeknight game last week, you kind of had a handful of days to heal up, I guess, and game plan and analyze. How do you think that's benefited both the coaching staff and the team?
Well, I think it benefited both of us. Just from a standpoint, we didn't have very many bumps and bruises coming out of the game last week, but you're never going to feel 100% the day after a game. So it did give them an extra 24 hours to get a little bit of extra ice, or a little bit, more ice tubs or whatever. And then from the coach's standpoint, it'll be the last time in a while that we get to spend a Saturday with our families. We worked half a day. We worked all day Friday, and then came in on Saturday and worked from about 8 till 12 or 7 to 11. And then the rest of the day we kind of spent watching football and being around our families. So it's just kind of a refresher. That way, once we hit it on Sunday, we were ready to go. Coaches were a little bit refreshed, and players were a little bit refreshed. So I think it helped everybody.
Just the proverbial Mark Dodson update. Any luck on that yet?
Not anything major. We called this morning. We tried to call yesterday, and I guess they took Labor Day off too. We couldn't get any answer, and so we called this morning. Still looking, still working through it. Like I said last week, from from talking to the people that we've been talking to at the NCAA, all signs point to yay, but you never know until the signature signed on the deal. You just never know. So we're keeping our fingers crossed and our toes. And at some point, just from the fact of taking care of that individual, taking care of Mark, we'll shut it all down and just redshirt him and go at it like that. But right now, only being the second week in the season, we still got a little bit more time. So if I get to that Tennessee Tech week, which I don't foresee this happening, but if I get to that Tennessee Tech week and there's still no decision, then we'll start going more in that direction with him. But like I said, I don't foresee that.